Hi, Russ here, UFO Paranormal TV and Flying Saucer Television. And tonight we have Rowan Bow, and she's an abductee all the way from Oz. Hi there, how are you doing, Rowan?
Hi. Hello.
Now then, nice to meet you.
Thank
So,
you.
right, yeah, so basically, like everybody else, I seem to meet on Facebook, and we're all in that little group of UFO investigators, researchers, abductees, contactees. And we got talking, I think it was the other week, and just listening to 2 minutes, and I said, "Whoa, wait a minute, I'd love to hear more, sort of like, but would you like to come on the show and let everybody else hear, sort of like, because it's fantastic, is this?" And she agreed and said yes. So here we are.
Thank you. It's my
So,
first interview ever. So here we
really,
go.
right? I didn't
Yes.
realize that. I didn't realize
Yes.
that. So, basically, if where did it all start for you, Ron?
Um, I've been piecing together every weird event that in my life this year, and I realised that something that I remember that happened when I was 8 or 9 must have been ET as well, because it was just too strange to leave out of the ET basket, if you know what I mean. So I've had things happen since I was about 8 or 9. Um, just strange things were happening in my bedroom with little people, I guess. They weren't greys. And it was so terrifying at the time that I actually forced my parents to move me into my sister's room. So I actually had blocked out a few things that had happened when I was 8 or 9. But these little things, I think it was sleep paralysis they would put me in, because I couldn't shout out to anybody to come and find me or, rescue me or anything. So my parents didn't know what was happening. Of course, I was just told it was dreams. But I knew that it wasn't dreams. And things like lights would be in my room, very bright lights. Time would distort. So time was either going very fast or time was slowing right down. So they were doing weird, strange things with reality. And the other really weird thing that I remember very vividly was me lying in my bed and the room spinning so fast, lights just going round like this. And that was absolutely so scary. And now I've been again piecing together, trying to remember back to that point in my life. And I do remember that there was a book my mum used to read every night to us to put us to sleep. And this book she bought was Where the Wild Things Are. And it had like a little monster in it. And it was the most scariest book that I actually thought it was about these things. And I couldn't get through to the end of the book without going into a complete panic attack and screaming and just so petrified of these little aliens, I guess. I don't know. I can't remember what they looked like, but when I remember back to that book, I think they looked like that. But they didn't have horns. That was the only thing that I could remember, that these things didn't have horns like the Gruffalo did looking beast in this book.
Right.
So that was so scary that I actually forced mum and dad to move me into my sister's bedroom, and it never ever happened in my sister's bedroom. So I don't know why it would only happen when I moved back into my own bedroom, but it did happen in just that one bedroom. So I don't, know what it was about, why they were even focusing on me as well, because it didn't happen to anybody else. So and that was when I was like 8 or 9. There was a couple of strange things that happened in my teens. I actually was pregnant when I was 17, and also again when I was 19, to people. I was only feeling like a child, and I didn't feel like wanting to be a parent at that point. So I'd actually 2 different hospitals I went to have abortions. Sorry to say that, I did. And I was about 10 or 12 weeks for both of those. And both times the nurses came over to me at the end and they said we couldn't see a fetus in there. And this is another one of these weird things that I'm now putting back to aliens, because I was like, well, I just assumed that they'd be these tiny little specks when I was 17 or 18. I didn't know how big a 10-week-old baby would be, a fetus would be. So, yeah, that's another very, very odd thing, that there were no fetus in there when I had. And both, they were actually made a point of coming up to me and saying that at the end of my procedure. So that's another very, very odd thing, that they just disappeared. I don't recall having anything to do with any, abductions at that point.
Did you go through with the procedure? Did they say,
yes,
you are?
Yeah.
And there's something there, or what did they
I believe, see, this is what I mean. I mean, I was only 17 or 19. So at that point, I am thinking back into my life. Did I have ultrasounds? I can't remember if I did, but we said it was about 12 weeks because after 12 weeks, you couldn't have an abortion.
Yeah.
So it was like emergency sort of thing, get it sorted out then. So I do know how, and I do have a photo of me being taken. I was petrified that people were going to notice that I was pregnant, because I actually had a bit of a belly already. So that's what I mean. Like, I know that it was real and it wasn't made up. I've got a photo of when I was a teen. And I thought the people were going to notice that I was pregnant because I had a tummy already before I had this abortion. So
what I mean is, so did they say you'd actually had an abortion, or
I did go through the abortion, and at the end of the abortion, they said there was no fetus in there for both times. They said they'd never ever had to have this conversation before with anybody. So now I'm looking back in my life going, oh my goodness, what happened there? So,
but did they say that? How had it gone? Did they say?
They went through the procedure, but there was no fetus in there both times. So I was definitely pregnant, and like I said, I had a baby tummy showing already, and at that, something must have happened between, there where there was nothing in there. So that's one of the other very odd things. Now I'm looking back in my life, piecing my strange encounters together. Well, like I said, I actually don't remember that. However, between those 2 abortions, I actually did have an major interaction with ET. I was outside at night. I just hung some washing out. I was like, oh my God, I forgot to hang this out. So I went outside at about 9 o'clock at night to hang some washing out. And down from the sky came a big ball of light, and we call them min lights in Australia. Yeah. And that was all I knew what it was, a min light. It was like a little will-o'-the-wisp or something I'd heard of, and I'd never seen anything. And that round ball of light came down. It was a solid thing. It wasn't just a light. It was a solid ball that was lit. And it was floating down probably about 3 to 4 meters away from me, coming backwards and forwards towards me, bouncing, kind of almost having fun. So I was like, oh God, that looks like it must be radioactive. I'm trying not to touch it. So it was trying to play with me, but I was leaning back, stepping back, not really like it was about my head height. Yeah. And then just actually came straight to me, and from all I can explain it was, it just went into my head, like it just banged into my face, and then I was floating straight up into the sky. Nothing around me. I was just floating up in the sky, and there was a rectangular spacecraft above me that I was coming up to. It was probably 100 meters into the air. So, I mean, it was dark. I could look down and look up, and nothing was around me. And I could see the houses down there, and I was just being drawn up. And underneath, I was like, I've got to remember this. I can't forget this. Really important. All the details. So I was forcing myself to look at everything. And underneath was coils, red hot coils that weren't like, it wasn't like a grill or anything. It was just really red hot, some sort of metal.
Yeah.
And I went up through into the whole thing and then landed on the deck, which was just an open area inside. And there were two male blonde, tall Nordics, for want of a better word, and two blonde, tall female Nordics. I mean, I didn't know anything about this. This was back in, say, 91. So I was only about 19 at this time. And I realized that these were not humans. These weren't humans. How could they be humans? We didn't have this technology, you know? So I just sort of like, well, what do you say to somebody? I could either panic and I could scream, or I could look at this and say, welcome to Earth. So I said, welcome to planet Earth, you know? What do you say? So I was like, greetings. I don't know. But going through my head, I was like, you know, don't steal me, don't rape me, don't, you know, take bits off me, don't kill me. So, yes, you know, please return me, sort of thing. So that was a very strange moment. And I'm pretty sure that they sort of said, we don't want anything to do with you. In fact, if you touch us, we will kill you, you know? So I was like, oh, goodness me, you know? So, and I thought, this is going to go quite bad, actually.
If you touch them, they'll kill you for touching them.
That's what I thought. And
if you touch them, touching them will kill you. Do you mean?
Well, that's what. And I thought, oh gosh, that I maybe get electricity from them or something. That there might be something that there's a good reason why I'm not allowed to touch them. So that basically ruled out everything that I was worried about. But then they said, would you like to fly the craft? And yes. So I actually sat in one of the swivel chairs. So there was two on one side, and on that side was the side the two males were sitting on. Yeah. And there must have been a console. I can't remember any of the details of the console, which I've racked my brain about for so many years. And so one of the males hopped up and just basically let me sit down there, and I was allowed to fly the craft. I can't remember how I did it, but I do remember looking through the windscreen, for want of a better word, that there were fields, just farms underneath, just going so fast underneath us. So I was flying the craft. And I was doing that for a good while, and all I kept seeing was fields. And I thought, I don't know where we're going. I don't know how far away we are. And I was getting a bit worried. I thought, well, if we are too far away, it's going to take just as much time to get back. I mean, me not knowing anything about any of this stuff, you know. So he actually, the man who'd let me fly, we swapped, and he said, that's not fast. Watch this. And so he actually then flew so fast. I couldn't see any fields anymore. We were going so fast, like thousands of kilometers an hour. It must have been. I had no idea where we were on the planet at all. I don't know even if we were in the same country. We were going so fast for so long, and I was panicking. Oh my God, we're never going to get back home in time, you know, basically to go to work, you know, and people will start to worry about me. And I did actually touched his top of his shoulder, and I said, excuse me, can we get back home now? And he said, yeah, that's fine. We'll take you back home now. And I was like, phew. And then he said, but first we're going to put an implant in the back of your neck. And I freaked out, and the ladies grabbed me. And then I woke up instantly and was grabbing my neck like this. Oh my God. can feel something there, but I have never had it checked or anything. So, but I do remember them saying, we will see you again. And I woke up going, oh, they're going to come and visit me at work. And all day I kept on looking for people coming in at work. The whole day. Oh, what about them? Are they coming in? Where are they? So I looked. I mean, you wouldn't do that if it was a dream, you know. I was there spending all day waiting for and 4 blondes did come in, and I thought, oh, I couldn't remember what they looked like. And I thought it could be them, but they seem to have different haircuts. These ones had long hair.
Yeah.
But before I went to work on the radio, was reported a UFO sighting that night by 2 fishermen, but it was different to what I'd seen, and it was a green cylindrical tube UFO. Maybe 2 of them. I can't remember the exact details, but I was like, oh God, that actually happened. Anyway, when a few years later, I was actually traveling. I went to Africa, and we saw this satellite going across our campsite. And it was just called the satellite. No one knew anything else. It was just a white light that went across. And then somebody said, oh, what's that over there in the distance? So we had a look, and over on the mountains was a green fluorescent tube cylindrical UFO going across like that. And I was thinking, oh God, I know about those. I had ever told anybody my story, any of these stories, you know. And I'd actually finally popped up and said, I think it's a UFO. And as soon as I said that, it disappeared. And a week later, we were camping again in mountains again, and it was just coming on. That was nighttime, that one there. But we were camping, it was just coming on night, but it was dark around the campsite because we were in the mountain area. But looking up, you could still see blue daylight. And there were 2 big clouds there, and a satellite flew between them. And I was thinking, oh God, I felt like I shouldn't say anything because no one else talked about any of this stuff, you know. And I just finally said, oh, you should have seen this thing last time we saw this satellite. Afterwards, we saw this other thing. And I was trying to look around the campsite for this fluorescent green color. Couldn't see anything fluorescent green. You'd think that everything would be fluorescent green. But I finally looked up in the air, and here it is flying straight across us like that. And it was like glass. It was like glass, but or optic fiber. And on the ends was brighter, like optic fiber lights up. So this fluorescent green massive tube thing was as big as 2 clouds. So it was actually going between the 2 clouds and higher than the clouds. So I can't comprehend how big that was. It could have been miles long. I can't get my head around how big it was.
Yeah.
When another time, so that was in Africa, and I started to piece together again, did I have this implant? Because how would they find me? Did they find me? And so when I was when I was 21, my dad took me back to England and Scotland, where I was born, and we were driving between England and Scotland at night. I think it was Christmas night, and we'd gone over there for my 21st birthday, actually. When we were going up to Scotland, where my dad was from. So we were driving along. Dad was driving, and my little brother was in the front seat sleeping. And I had the whole back seat to myself. And I kept looking up into the sky, and we kept seeing this reflection on fog up there. And I was sort of saying to Dad, can you see that up there? And I kept on looking. It was following us, like our car was driving here, and this thing was following us, above us, the whole way. And this is our car, and it was right there. And it was circular, like light shining into fog or out of fog. Yeah. And I kept thinking, every explanation went through my mind. What could it be? Is it our hubcaps. Why would a hubcap reflect up there? That makes no sense, you know. But this thing was rotating, round circular light, rotating one way, the lights, and inside inner circle rotating the opposite way, and also pulsating in and out. So I'm there going, what could that be? It's this whole for hours. I don't remember any missing time, but I could, who knows, you know. And then when I couldn't see it, I was like, oh, that's good, it's gone. But then I'd scoot over the back of the bench seat of the back of the car and notice it was up that side. So it was this following us just above the tree line, that whole way. So this is what I'm now going, my God, have I got an implant? Because how would they find it? Me over there. What? And that was in England. Anyway, I've come back and I was living in Sydney. We just bought our first house, and it went through my mind quite often what is actually happening here, because nobody ever talked about it. I never really talked about it to anybody else, and I spent the whole time just no idea what was going on. I knew what I'd seen was real. I didn't, you know. That's what I mean. I knew what I saw. I knew what I'd experienced. Yeah. Anyway, so we were standing out in the backyard, and there were 3 rainbows in the sky, 3, one on top of another, but one was inverted. So we had one and then upside down and then the other one, but in a little portion of the sky, just over in one corner. And now I realize rainbows are massive. They cover the whole sky, not just little tiny things in the corner of the sky. So I don't know what that was. And that's what made me start to go, oh, what have I seen, you know? And I was looking into the sky, and it was daylight during this time. And I thought, oh, there's a balloon, a little balloon in the sky. It was like a yellow balloon or something floating in the sky. And then a red balloon came into the sky, but that was going in a different direction. And then a blue light. And then the whole sky lit up with stars during the daytime. And I was like, okay. You know, I was thinking about them, and then the whole lot just flashed out, everything. And I was, oh my God. So I've been thinking, do these things really exist? And that's what happened at the time. I was thinking and questioning in my mind. A couple of years after that, I had gone back to my hometown and was visiting a friend over there, and we'd had too much to drink, so I wasn't feeling very good the next day, and was lying on a mattress in her spare bedroom on a single mattress. And I'm just laying there looking up and started to thinking about, do these things, what is going on with this stuff, you know, that's happening only to me. No one else that I ever had known had ever talked about anything, and nobody really believed me, and I never really explained anything too much to them because it was just not acceptable conversation, you know.
Yeah.
So I was laying there thinking about these weird things that I'd seen, and I finally said, okay, if you people up there are real, you will heal me right now. You'll come down now and heal me if you people are real up there. and then I have no other choice but to believe you. And I was like, I'll believe you if you come and heal me. And they did. I was just laying there with my eyes shut so tight, but the whole room started to buzz like this, buzz, like bees, buzz, and the whole room just started to vibrate like this. And out of my stomach, where I was feeling sick, was like a ripple motion, and the whole room just was rippling like this out of my stomach with this buzzing noise. And it was I was just laying there like this, you know, I don't know. And they healed me, and they healed my stomach. And I was like, well, I guess I have to believe you that you exist now. So that was so bizarre that actually I was awake. I wasn't sleeping. I was just laying there in the morning time. I was just trying to get better after drinking too much though. Yeah. So, after that, so I sort of had these periods in my life where those weird things happened. And then I started to have dreams about standing out at night. I mean, I never would do this but I don't think it was a dream. So I was standing out there with a whole bunch of other people, and we're all standing kind of in the back of industrial areas where there's like big chain fences and gravel and, in random places right at the back of industrial estates and things. So I was standing out there with just dozens of other people, and we'd look up in the sky and see a triangular craft. At this point, I'd never even knew that triangular craft even existed. So we were all standing out there looking up, and I recall saying multiple times over years, so this probably went on for 10 years, 12 years, these weird dreams.
Yeah.
That I would pinch myself to make sure I was awake. I'd be pinching myself. Yes, I'm finally awake. I'm like pinching myself and saying to all these other people, I'm finally awake when I see a UFO. So I don't know why I'd do that if I was dreaming either. So what happened on the craft the craft would come straight down on top of us, sort of thing, from really high and straight down. And we were all there and everyone screaming. And I was like, don't worry, it's fine. They're not going to do any harm. We're just going to get on board. And the only thing that I remember out of those times, all those dreams, if you want to call them that, was I was staring at a grey alien. Looked like Skinny Bob. So when I started to see pictures of Skinny Bob, that made me
Skinny
realize.
Bob? Sorry, I'm lost.
It's a.
Is it from Australia?
No. It's a video of a grey alien. They call it Skinny Bob.
Oh, right.
No problem. But it's probably the only real looking alien online. But my one was a female, and it looked like that, and I kept it was just staring at this grey female alien, and all I felt was love. And I don't know whether they were emitting love to me or whether it was trying to force me to love them, or like a psychic kind of connection, really close, only a foot away from each other, our faces. So that's one of these main memories as well. And that was very strange too, because I actually a lot of people I'd notice reports again of UFOs at that same time. So I just put it in the back of my mind because these were dreams. So I'd wake up and think it was a dream. But at the time I felt like I was fully awake, and I'd walk around these triangular craft, and it's like I knew where I was and who these people were, and I had memories on craft. But I don't really remember things like now, except for just staring at this grey's face. And so the other thing that I do remember. Pardon?
So the Skinny Bob, what was he, like a normal alien grey or taller, or?
No, I think they were only. I mean, I don't remember how tall these things were, because I think we were sitting down staring at each other, or something like that. I don't remember height. I'm only 5'3" anyway, so I don't remember their height at all, and I don't remember really seeing them around. That's all I really remember, is just staring at this one ET. So I mean, that's 3 different ETs that I've seen, that I've had interactions with. So It's all very strange.
Yeah, so the ETs were what you've had interactions with, like the alien grey type,
Yeah.
the Nordics, did you say?
Yeah, but they called themselves travelers.
Right, yeah, no
In
problem.
my mind, I thought they were from Sweden or Switzerland. I mean, I don't, that's what they looked like, Sweden or Switzerland, blondes.
Yeah,
And I just got that stuck in my mind that that's where they were from, but they clearly
right.
weren't humans. Yeah.
So what was it? What was the third race then?
These
So,
little things these little monster looking things.
oh, you said that, is it Gruffalos or something?
Yeah, well, but little. I do remember my last, I actually did have a dream, like a proper dream about these things. And I remembered that they showed up in that dream. And it was a scary dream, actually. And I remember telling my sister that these same little things had come into my dream. And I'm sure she remembers that dream if I actually asked her about it. So yeah, that was very strange that that's how I remember what they were, because I sort of blocked it out in my mind because it was so terrifying. I just couldn't get through the day without trying to forget it, you know. I was at
Really?
school and things. And these little,
And what did you say? I know you said there were little. I mean, I've never seen. I've heard somebody said. I remember somebody on the television, totally different thing altogether, mentioned about that book. You were telling
where the wild things are.
where wild things are. I
Yeah,
remembered him saying, and then Gruffalos, and I thought, and the little stocky things.
yeah, yes. But I can't remember if I was abducted or what was going on there, because I'd actually had to block it out because it was just too
Right.
scary to get on with my everyday life otherwise, you know. It was the only way I could cope was just to try and forget it and block it out. But the time distortions was very strange, really fast or really slow. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I know what you.
And
I know what you're saying there. Yeah. I
yeah.
know what you mean.
So it was like they were just testing reality or showing me reality, some sort of reality didn't exist or something. I've had this since I was 8 or 9. So this all these strange experiences. There was another couple of experiences. So about February last year, it kind of all just started to come to a head.
Yeah.
I'd put all that behind me, and I hadn't had anything for a couple of years. Although the last time I did have that dream about the triangular craft and the grey ET, my brother-in-law, who was living here at the time, said that he had seen what he was staring at a star on that night, and then it just flew off. So there was another confirmation, you know what I mean? I kept on thinking, God, there's a confirmation every time I have these dreams, supposed dreams, that it's like there was a report of something at around the same time. So
So it made the news again.
well, that was my
Yeah.
brother-in-law, but
Yeah.
yeah, there was just I remember just piecing this together, putting it in the back of my mind. Oh well, there's another confirmation that this isn't really a dream then, if there's always craft scene things. So in about February last year, I felt like something tapped me on the foot and woke me up and told me to go outside and take my camera or my phone. So I'd done that, and there was a light in the sky just going quite fast, actually quite low down. The sky at that point was like a purpley kind of color with daylight coming up, and I snapped 3 or 4 shots of it just moving across. So it was snap, snap, snap. So that's how fast it was going. It was going quite fast. And I thought, oh, I'll report that to MUFON, because I'd never done any of that before. I'd never, ever, ever reported anything because I didn't know you could. So I was searching. I was like, oh, I should report that. Anyway, so I did report it to MUFON on a form, And a man called Michael, he rang me 3 times actually when I just started to tell him. I was like, oh, I've had a couple of other things that happened, and he wanted me to report on those too. So I did report all my experiences to MUFON, and he said it took 16 files for him to load it all up because it was that extensive. And I had never really realized how extensive my own experience really was, or how dramatically different to other people's it really was as well. But when I was, I thought I'll start to find communities and groups like like-minded, I mean, so I could, because I felt so alone. Nobody understood this, you know. And so I found a CE5 group, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, in around local here. And I thought, I'm going to go and I'll find people. We've all got the same stories then. Well, I was the only person there that had any kind of story. And I'd be like, what's your story? You know, what happened to you? And they're like, oh, my dad saw a light once 50 years ago. And I'm like, what? Where's everybody? Why am I so different? So I started to realize that actually it was quite significant what had happened to me in my life. But the night before that CE5, I was lying in bed and I actually had a sleep paralysis. So I haven't, apart from when I was really little and now I realize what it was, I'd never had a sleep paralysis before. And I was laying there, couldn't move. And eventually I actually couldn't breathe. But what was leaning over me was 2 greys. One was taller and one was slightly shorter. And one of the greys was saying to the other one, why is she freaking out? And the other one, you know, she knows who we are. And the other one said, well, that's because she hasn't seen us while she's awake before, or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
And then they sort of did something a bit scary, and they blocked my memory on that. And I woke up feeling something moving under my hand, and that's what actually.
When you said they blocked your memory, in what way?
I don't know, something. I don't know what they did, but I was like something clenchy, and I was like, oh, and they made me forget whatever that was that they were doing, which I don't know what it was. So this was only a year ago.
Right.
And anyway, when I was at the CE5, a girl, I didn't tell her, I hadn't told anybody about that thing that happened the night before, but she actually said almost identical to that. She said she woke up with the blanket being pulled underneath her arm, and these 2 greys were talking to her in this sleep paralysis. And I was like, oh, God, that's exactly right. That happened to me. So that was very strange. But then a couple of months later, I was driving along the highway, and at about midday, so this was only last year.
Yeah.
And so we're doing 100 kilometers an hour on the highway, and this little thing just zipped straight across my windscreen. It's probably about 2 meters long. It was flat triangular, and it was strobing like really, really white, hot light sort of thing, and then going pitch black. And it was like kind of going, I'm a bird. I'm like, that's not a bird. This thing's frisbeeing straight across. And it was up tree height. And I thought, where did that go? And I'm like looking. But that's where I was thinking, oh, my God, do I have this implant? Because they could find me driving on the highway and shoot straight across. So, I mean, I've started to look in the skies, and basically every night I can see something in the skies moving, weird lights repeating sequences, or things flying into nowhere, lots of them, and coming out of nowhere. So, yeah, there's been some weird lights and things. So basically I can go outside and just...
So how big did you say this triangle was then?
I think it was only very small, about a couple of meters, may have fitted one person in it lying down, sort of squished in. It was a flat triangle shape.
Right, no problem, yeah.
Yeah. Flat as in pyramid sort of thing. Not so much shaped like one of the triangle craft.
No.
Yeah, so... And that's why, if this stuff's happened to me, and then I started to find out about that the US was starting to talk about it, and they'd lied, throughout the years and things like that. And I thought, well, if they're talking about it, then I can start to talk about it. So I started to find people and just talk about this stuff. And, I don't really have any answers to what's going on, except that if I've had all these things happen in my life, well, maybe other people might feel more comfortable talking about their experiences if they hear about my experiences.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is it. This
Yeah.
is one of the things when we put the show out there for people to watch, and people might get something from it. They might remember themselves. Sort of like something happening to them, and
Yeah.
they might even you never know, but they might live quite near where you live, and they might have something very similar happening to them as what you had when it happened to you, and sometimes maybe even at the same time.
Yeah.
Sort of like you never know. You just never know.
Well, when I went to Africa, that was only a little way away from that aerial school in Zimbabwe. And I mean, I never heard about that, but that was only a couple of years after that in that region there.
Oh
So
yeah.
there's obviously things have been going on for so long. I mean, that's 40 years out of my life that things have been going on with me. So how many other people have had the same similar things but have never spoken about it? And I just feel like that if we all tell our stories or start talking, there's no more secrets anymore. We don't have to feel like that we're not allowed to say anything anymore.
No, well, I mean, this is it. I mean, it's like it seems that everybody and their horses talking about it now, in the government, that is. Sort of like it's like there's this official secrets act what they're all talking about, and they've all signed, but hell, sort of like they're all talking about, oh well, it's like, well, wait a minute, you signed the official secrets act. You're not supposed to be talking about this. And you're not supposed to be talking about this whether you're retired or you're serving. And so I always question a lot of these people, especially these G men, these government men, whether the government, military, and police, definitely, sort of like always makes me wonder, what I mean, sort of like what's going on? How comes, for a long time nobody's been talking, and then sort of like you just can't shut people up now. Sort of like in the government, it's like, wow, that's
Well,
different.
these some of these people are still going to jail for talking. The whistleblowers or leakers and things.
I
So
don't know. I've never seen anybody being cuffed taken yet. You know what I mean? They've always, they've
no,
always got this the threat, like the guy from England. Sort of like for sort of like breaking into the Pentagon's, sort of like PC and what have you. A lot of threats and what have you, but never happened, did it? You know what I mean? Sort of like,
yeah,
we're going to extradite him, and sort of like, you know, still waiting. Never happened.
yeah. Well, there was a young kid only a couple of weeks ago that he leaked some information out, and he's in jail too. But I don't understand why nobody else went to jail. But maybe that's the thing that like you're saying, it's
I think
okay to
that's
talk
more.
about it.
I think that's more of not necessarily um, alien technology. That's more like sort of like technology now dealing with what's happening around the world. Sort of like with conflicts and stuff. You
Yeah,
know, is
other official secrets or something.
Yeah, I mean they're all secrets, aren't they? Sort of
Yeah,
like, but it's just that it seems that some are more secret than others.
yeah. Well,
if you know
obviously,
what I mean.
that's my theory, though. If we all can talk now about what's happened to us, we can maybe piece together really what's going on. Because, like you say, a lot of these other people who are telling us what to believe maybe have never actually had anything to do with these things, or maybe they have, but they've also been keeping so
I'm
many
more
secrets.
inclined, personally, I'm more inclined to listen to, sort of like the everyday person, sort of like the person on the dole or the worker, the hard worker, rather than anybody in government. I won't listen to anybody. I won't really take any notice of anybody in the government about anything between me and you.
Yeah.
But don't tell anybody.
No, well, I think if everyone can talk and start to talk, I mean, we didn't ask for this stuff to happen. It sort of happened to us. We didn't ask for it. So what else has been
Well,
going
that's
on with
right.
all of us
You,
little
you,
people on the ground?
you've just hit the nail on the head there. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like people say to me, oh, sort of like, that's amazing. Sort of like, don't you feel special? And I just turn around to them and say to them, it's not like what you see on television. You see these in America and what have you, sort of like the big I ams and what have you, about being abducted and all this lot. And the truth of the matter is, if we're honest about it, I haven't met anybody that's been abducted that I know that has gone through anything good. The people that I know that have told me about their abductions, it's not been good. I mean, it says it, the word itself says it all. Abduction, taken without consent, and having, certain procedures, medical procedures performed on you, on people, which, that obviously they're hurting because people are saying, oh, well, this hurt, that hurt. So obviously, sort of like it's not good, and I know of people like myself who have become ill and contracted this disease, this ME, sort of like after I'd been taken. I'm coming across more and more people that are saying, well, I've got a medical condition. And over the years, that medical condition's the same, but it's changed. Originally, it was ME, myalgia encephalitis, or ME, and then it went to chronic fatigue syndrome, and then fibromyalgia, and something else now. So I think it's changed, and there's 5 different names. And over those years, sort of like it's the same disability in illness where lethargic, you sleep a lot. In fact, you sleep all the time. You can't stop. Sort of like you can't move. You're in chronic pain. Sort of like walking just a few steps is like doing a marathon, and you're up and down all the time. You have brain fog. Sort of like sweating. You go cold. You got all these things from people that have been abducted. And I say to the people, and you think this is marvelous? You think it's amazing? This is reality.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's not.
Well, it's like almost like they've had. I don't feel like I've had anything apart from when I was really little, that
Yeah.
was really traumatic. But if they can remove your memory or make you believe that you're sleeping or you forget or
Yeah.
they can knock you out. then how do we remember anyway? I mean, you can go to I did go to a hypnotherapist years ago, and I just didn't feel like that I went under, and I didn't really feel like that I was remember anything that I hadn't already remembered from my own experiences. But I mean, they did heal me, and so I don't know whether there's like a positive faction and a negative faction to lots of different. I mean, there's been 3 kinds of ETs that I've had experiences with, but I'm sure that there's many, many different kinds of beings that are here, and I don't know what all of their
I know what
agendas
you're
are.
saying. I know. The thing is, abduction's abduction, no matter what anybody says.
Yeah.
It's been taken without consent. And I mean, there is something called the Stockholm syndrome, where your brain, it's the brain's system to find that one thing in common with whoever's taken you, whether it's abducted you or kidnapped you or whatever, and it's to keep you alive. It's it's one of these things to keep you, sort of like safe, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There's also other names as well. Something somewhat trauma, and it's where women suffer being, having a relationship that's not good, and it's the same kind of thing where they're getting beaten, and it's the same kind of thing, and they find that one, and they're always finding the positive about the relationship. It's always positive. It's something trauma they call it. Anyway, so the thing is, if that's been put there in place, your own brain is doing that. So it's like a fail-safe, isn't it? It's a fail-safe, so that it's keeping you alive, so that you sort of like find the positive from this. Well, that's not good,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, you've still been taken. You might have had all sorts of medical procedures done. Some people
Yes.
are talking about having a sexual encounter and even offspring. Well, I mean, sort of like, is that what you would call rape?
Well, that's
Yeah,
right. And you're not going
you
to,
know,
and what's really going on then? You can't just
exactly.
say it's positive, oh, well, that's great,
No,
come on, do it some more, or negative, if they can convince you otherwise. That,
yeah,
I mean, even they say some people are even putting a theory that we are having like a virtual reality, but that's not true though, because
no.
and if we are, then it's actually them doing it to us still. It's even if
It's
it's
still somebody at the end of the day, whether it's virtual reality, some people can call it, it's like remote sensing, remote viewing, remote control, remote influencing.
yeah,
Somebody's behind that.
that's right. And
There's
do
somebody
humans have that?
behind that,
I don't. Yeah,
And
and if
the
humans
thing
do have
is,
that, that's a
yeah,
worry.
yeah. So the thing is, at the end of the day, it's still wrong, no matter what, you
Yeah.
know. And this is a big problem that nobody's. It's the elephant in the room, and sort of like nobody's talking about the reality of it. You know.
And I mean, they say that the consciousness is getting, it's we're, developing more spirituality or more psychic. That's how they speak, I guess, because they use. I feel like I just have to think to them, and they'll appear in the sky. So they obviously can hear, and then they flash when you look at that area of the sky. So they obviously know that you're looking there. So there's sort of they obviously use consciousness in specific ways, whether
You
it's
see, it
to
wasn't so long ago, in 39 and 40s, when there were a certain person in his regime that were looking into the occult and ways of doing what you would call magic, magi, magic,
mm,
you know? it's all the same thing, sort of like different names, like coming on in time, sort of like, and so it makes you wonder, sort of like, is it somebody who's maybe a degree higher or degrees higher than the rest controlling people, which again, very
Yeah.
sinister.
Mind control or some sort of other things that may or may not be going on. But I just don't think that people can say, oh, well, because we're going to become more spiritual, that everything will be okay. That's, you can't just say, oh, well, we need the negative to have the positive, or the positive to have to see the negative. That's not good enough. It's not a good enough explanation as why aliens are here, or interdimensionals, or maybe they were always here. Who knows what's going on? But if we all pretend that nothing's happening, then we're all just getting lied to some more, aren't we?
This is right. Yeah, this is right. But at the end of the day, the more the problem is, and then it's like, if you look on the television, we're just getting the same old nonsense.
Yeah.
Sort of like going backwards, looking at aliens from yonder year, and it's happening today, and it's happening in his own countries, and nobody seems to be bothered. Everybody wants to look at somebody else's country and what's going on over there.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem in this country, in England. It's terrible. You know what I mean? Sort of like it's like looking at other countries, and sort of like, instead of about what's going on here.
Yeah, well, no one's
Like,
talking about it in Australia at all. I started my own Facebook group just to bring information from other
yeah,
countries across, because no, that's not on the news, and there's no investigations, there's no
no,
whistleblowers, there's nothing going on here. But obviously there's hundreds, if not thousands, of tens of thousands of people maybe have been taken. They say UFO flaps here and there. And so there's obviously a lot of history that's been going on over here. The US over here as well, the Pine Gap and things. I just know what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on, because if nobody talks about anything, then it's completely covered up, isn't it?
that's right. Yeah, you can say that again. Sort of like, we're just getting the same old, same old. It's like nothing's changed in this country for years. Sort of like, people are just talking about the same things that they were talking about 25 years ago, and sort of like everybody. And the thing is, don't take any notice of researchers or investigators. That's what I say, because the thing is, they don't know. I'm a researcher and investigator because I wanted to know. And the problem is, no matter who you are or where you are from, and you're an investigator, unless you've had it happen to you, unless you've lived it, you can't possibly know.
I know.
So, sort of like, big deal. You're an investigator. Wow. You know
But
what I mean?
it's for us
You end up
little
on
people.
television talking about something that you don't know about, like the rest of them.
But all us little people who have had things happen to them, we need to know. We need to have this spoken about, because if everybody, like 99% of the rest of the world, hasn't had this happen to them, and they don't think that that's a big deal, well, all of us 1% needs to know, because it is a big deal for us. This isn't pretend.
The problem is, there is a lot of people that it could have happened to. I mean, nobody knows 100%, but let's just say that there's people going missing from each country, everybody's country, every year. In my country, right? Yeah, I think it was last year. I think it's this year. I don't know how they've got worked it out this year, because you can only work it out the year after. But there's something like 300, I think it was 350,000 people had gone missing.
Yeah, that's mad, isn't it?
You know,
Yeah.
sort of like you're going to nearly 500,000 people a year going missing. Where have those people gone to? And that's just on an island like the UK.
That's right. And that's a big
So
percentage, actually, really, isn't it, of people?
massive.
Think about it.
It's massive. So where have all those people gone? And if that's every year, there's a massive big problem we've got. A massive.
Mhm.
And then there's America and Canada, Australia and Europe. So just where are all these people going? Because they say that out of the statistics of what I've just said, like 350,000, right? Yeah, they only ever come across 1,000 people from those documents that have, been put in and from going missing that are ever found.
Inconceivable.
That
Yeah.
is very well. It's the time is come to an end again as usual,
Thank you.
and I'm going to say thank you very much, Rowan,
Thank
for coming
you
on
as well.
the show. It's been amazing.
Thank you.
And I've only just seen now. I don't know what's gone on with some questions and people talking there. Made of Rubber, hi there. And Sandra, how you doing? Yeah, that's why people are keeping silent. Well, yeah. But so we'll have to have you back on the show again.
Thank you.
Usually I've done 2 hours, but 2 hours, I like to have people back on and carry on these days rather than go on for like two hours and what have you. And so I'll say thank you very much for coming on the show again, Rowan. And
Thanks a lot.
and thanks for anybody and everybody, like I say, Made of Rubber and Sandra, who has been in contact. And I'll say good night, God bless to everybody. And
Thank
take care.
you.